Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Shodhanandana Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Shodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parirash Saraswati Srimad His Divine Grace Glory Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dhami Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dhami Ki Jai Gangamai Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Go Oh, glorious to the Son of the Lord, oh, glorious to the Son of the Lord, oh, glorious to the Son of the Lord, oh, glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, oh, glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 9, Canto 3, text number 33. Brahma's prayers for creative energy. Yada rahitam atmanam bhutendriya gunasaihi Swarupena mayopetam Pasyan swarajam richtati Yadarahitan atmanam Bhutendriya gunasayahi Swarupena mayopetam Pasyan swarajam richtati Yadarahitam atmanam Bhutendriya gunasayahi Swarupena mayopetam Pasyan swarajam richyati. Yada, when, rahitam, freed from, atmanam, self, Buddha, material elements, indriya, material senses, guna asayihi, under the influence of the material modes of nature. Swarupena, in pure existence. Maya, by me. Upetam, approaching. Pasyan, by seeing. Swarajam, spiritual kingdom. Richyati, enjoy. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. Please repeat. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that a person whose only desire is to render transcendental loving to the service to the Lord is a free person in any condition of material existence. That service attitude is the swarup, or real form of the living entity. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also confirms this statement by declaring that the real spiritual form of the living entity is eternal servitorship to the Supreme Lord. Jivera Swarupoi Krishna Nityadas. The Mayavad school shudders at the thought of a service attitude in the living entity, not knowing that in the transcendental world, the service of the Lord is based on transcendental love. Transcendental loving service is never to be compared to the forced service of the material world. In the material world, even if one is under the conception that he is no one's servant, he is still the servant of his senses, under the dictation of the material modes. Factually, no one is master here in the material world, and therefore the servants of the senses have a very bad experience of servitude. They shudder at the thought of service because they have no knowledge of the transcendental position. In transcendental loving service, the servitor is as free as the Lord. The Lord is swarat, or fully independent. And the servant is also fully independent, or swarat, in the spiritual atmosphere, because there is no forced service. There, the transcendental loving service is due to spontaneous love. A reflected glimpse of such service is experienced in the service of the mother unto the son, the friend's service unto the friend, or the wife's service unto the husband. These reflections of service by friends, parents, or wives are not forced, but are due only to love. Here in this material world, however, the loving service is only a reflection. The real service, or service in Swarup, is present in the transcendental world, in association with the Lord. The very same service in transcendental love can be practiced in devotion here. This verse is also applicable to the Jnani school. The enlightened Jnani, when free from all material contaminations, namely the gross and subtle bodies, together with the senses of the material modes of nature, is placed in the Supreme and is thus liberated from material bondage. The Jnanis and the devotees are actually in agreement up to the point of liberation from material contamination. But whereas the Jnanis remain pacified on the platform of simple understanding, the devotees develop further spiritual advancement in loving service. The devotees develop a spiritual individuality in their spontaneous service attitude, which is enhanced on and on up to the point of madhurya rasa, or transcendental loving service reciprocated between the lover and the beloved. When you are free from the conception of gross and subtle bodies, and when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, you will realize your pure form in my association. At that time, you will be situated in pure consciousness. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master, he forced my eyes open with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Lord Brahma, he is praying for creative energy. He wants to be empowered. He wants to do a huge task. And if one is wise, before setting out on some endeavour, small or big, one has to prepare. Fasting on Ekadasi. Successful fasters perform, what's the preparation the day before? Sankalpa? There's an adivas. Yeah. So you make preparations, you set your mind, you establish your goal. You're aware of what it is you're trying to achieve. You're not just venturing out blindly to make an endeavour. So Lord Brahma, he has this urge to serve according to his capacity. But he starts off from nothing. So trying to discover who he is, where he's situated, what is at his fingertips, what he can do, he comes to the realization that he should meditate, perform austerities. And from meditation, from stilling the mind, it said we only use around 10% of the capabilities of our mind to do crossword puzzles, to get into trivia competitions, to try and exercise the muscle. Keeps it active, doesn't dry up completely, but to access those deeper aspects of the mind, we have to understand how to still the mind. And then the mind can, through depth, appreciate a greater level of reality. We're limited by our senses. The senses are influenced by the modes of material nature. When your senses are free from all influence of the modes of material nature, they're connected with the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature are like waves tossing the living entity, tossing everything. So, and we can witness the modes. They say that, we're hearing that the modes of material nature. Just a brief digression. Before I understood anything about Krishna consciousness, we were studying the Taoist philosophy, yin and yang, and that principle, yin and yang, opposites. But even within the symbol of yin and yang, there's one little dot there, which is the seed of the opposite within. So even just having a grasp on that analytical tool to understand nature, to understand reality, was helpful. And then the next stage up was now in Krishna consciousness, tamas, rajas, and sattva. In the yin and yang, they had the encapsulating circle, which was, because the Taoist philosophy is the way, so the way was the oneness, impersonalism, voidism. So Krishna consciousness, we have the three modes of material nature, and then to become free from the modes, we have to become free from the influence of the modes. The process to achieve that is to elevate oneself up through the modes to the mode of goodness, sattva-gun, again stilling the mind, getting a sense of clarity and clear vision, and then from there, that acts as a springboard to enter into the pure goodness, the Suddha-sattva. That's the Vasudeva platform. That's the platform of transcendence. So to still the mind, Lord Brahma was able to hear, to hear the supersoul, to hear the presence of the Lord giving direction. So often there's so much, static, so much clutter, so much alternative sound vibration entering into our mind from within our heart that we don't hear, we don't see, we get lost. We get lost in the fog. The Lord Brahma, he's very dear to the Lord, and he was able to access this information. He asked some very profound questions, and Krishna is giving assurance, reassurance. Just settle down. Just be situated in yourself. Be confident. If you think of me, I'm here. I will always guide you. I'll protect you. I will look after you. And in such a situation, then you will be able to proceed steadily, smoothly in your great undertaking. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is quoted here, there's another verse. It appears in the purport to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 41. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Kohe Shudridha Nishchoy. Kamakrit. Can you give me a solid translation of that?
The firm conviction that by practicing Krishna consciousness, everything else will be achieved is the real definition of faith.
Mm-hmm. The real definition of faith. The firm conviction that just by the execution of Krishna consciousness, everything will be achieved. This is in the verse 241. Vyavasiyatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana bahushakti anantasya buddhayo avisayanam. There's two different types of intelligence. There's the pointed vyavasiyatmika buddhi, and then there's the bahushaka. If one has that fixed faith, fixed intelligence, then his goal is one. Whereas for one who is not so focused, splayed out, then there are many areas of distraction, bahushaka. So the firm faith that Krishna and service to Krishna will give the ultimate result is the definition of real faith. Somehow or other, I've inherited this phone cover, and on there's Prabhupada, there's a thing in front of Prabhupada, but at the bottom there's a little saying. Faith is unflinching trust in something sublime. So that's achieved on the transcendental platform, within that mode of pure goodness. Goodness, the three modes of material nature, there's always competition, there's always contamination, the little seed of the yin and within the yang. There's nothing pure within the material world. Still, to cultivate the mode of goodness as a springboard to enter into the mode of Visuddhasattva is the safe and sure path. Mode of passion will give temporary happiness. They say pleasure in the mode of passion starts off like nectar, but ends up like poison. Happiness in the mode of goodness starts off like poison, bitter, difficult. Exercise. You have to, the pain from exercise. But if one can persevere, within 6 months, not long, then one will achieve and will see many, many good results. So starts off like poison, ends up like nectar, mode of goodness. But the mode of, there are many prescriptions for health and for well-being and for all sorts of other things. Rise in the morning, take these exercises, take these supplements, do this, do that. And they offer so many amazing benefits. What they fail to do is put in the fine print. In order to achieve these benefits, you have to control your mind. You have to have that mode of goodness. You have to have that steady application. You have to be able to ride the waves, not to be thrown off the surfboard. So the position of pure consciousness is elaborated on here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's service. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. 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 That's our constitutional position. That's who we are. The constitutional nature of our Dharma, Sanatan Dharma. Living entities, what is their constitutional nature? Service. The Mayavadi, they hear about service, and here the expression is they shudder at the thought. They shudder at the thought that they have to always engage in service. They want to be the one. They want to transcend service. They want to realize their superior position. But that concept, the impersonal concept, it's often the attractive option for somebody who is frustrated in the material world. They've tried to enjoy, they've tried to serve, they've tried to achieve some pleasure. It's just like the fruits on the tree. If you pick the fruits from the tree at the right time, then they're relishable. They become sweet and more sweet. But if you leave them on the tree for too long, then they become overripe, and then they start to rot. They become bitter, they become poisonous. So the service attitude, or the service rendered by people who have become frustrated, becomes a source of displeasure. They shudder at the thought that this is the goal, that for eternity, nityadas, we're going to be in our position of service. Srila Prabhupada clearly points out, it's an established thing, Jivara Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas, the servant of Krishna. Self-realization, spiritual understanding begins with understanding we're not the body. Who am I? You look in the mirror, you're looking good today. Feeling strong, it's going to be another good day. But no, you're not the body. Because in an instant, all of that false hope can be shattered. Somebody looks at you the wrong way, somebody says the wrong thing, you trip, you do something silly. Material nature gets in the way. So, to have that clearer conception that I'm not the body is the beginning of spiritual understanding. This is considered confidential knowledge. More confidential knowledge is what is the nature of that spiritual position. Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. I'm a servant of Krishna. The most confidential knowledge is who is Krishna, and what is my relationship with Krishna, and how can I develop that relationship with Krishna. So this is iconoclastic. It's revolutionary understanding. I'm not the body. I'm a servant of Krishna. simple. It's the first day. It's the ABC. It's what we're introduced to when we first come to Krishna consciousness. But nice to see you. Thank you for coming. And Vasu Shrestha. Vasu Shrestha. It's Shrestha, not Shrestha. I think he's got that Shrestha that he plays on it. Vasu Shrestha. Expert. You'll meet him and he'll come up and he'll make friends with you and he'll spend some time with you. Prabhu, I've got this real nectar. I really want to share this nectar with you. Do you want to come with me? I've got some nectar for you. Okay. Here's the bathroom. Can you clean the toilets? It's nectar. Service. You've got the opportunity to engage in service. Please, come with me. I want to share with you the greatest gift. And service is our sambandha. The nature of our relationship is service. If we don't have service, we don't have something to do for others, for service. If you don't want to allow somebody in, if you don't want to let them or make them feel uncomfortable, don't feed them for one thing, but then don't give them anything to do. Here, make yourself at home. No. Don't move. So a child who is nasty, who's a rascal, stand in the corner. Stand in the corner. This is really good for kids. You pull their earlobes. There was a kid. He was. We had a pile of stone chips in our yard, and he was doing all sorts of nonsense, just distributing it everywhere. So, not listening to any normal request. Eventually, they just dragged him off there by his earlobe. Cows, bulls by the nostrils, by the earlobe, and it was really effective. It stimulates certain points, and it's humbling. So don't do anything. Don't serve. This is the Mayavad conception. I'm not going to serve. And Mayavad understanding ultimately is that we're one. And for the Vaishnavas who understand that service means sambandha, service means relationship, this is considered spiritual suicide. Spiritual suicide. It's like being placed in solitary confinement. You have some excitement, you want to share it with somebody, but there's nobody to share it with. You don't have any options, you don't have any chance. You're just locked in there on your own, in the dark, merged. No service, no interrelationship, nothing you can do. So for somebody who's choosing that, then it's a sorry plight. A sorry plight. They're living in illusion. The Mayavadis, the impersonalists, so many little jingles. God is love, and love is God, and God and I are one. And it's just pure illusion. Choosing not to serve. But it's described here in the purport, you cannot avoid service. If you don't want to serve a good master, you'll serve a bad master. You'll serve your senses. You'll serve your mind. You'll serve your country. You'll serve some limited conception. And suffering will be there. Bad service. You have experience of bad service. So the last snare of Maya is to consider oneself to be God. The opposite here is service in a loving mood. Jivera Swarupoi, Krishnera Nityadas. Srila Prabhupada, he gave one translation of the Hare Krishna mantra. Often we hear, please engage me in your service. O energy of Krishna, O Radha, O Krishna and Ram, please engage me in your service. Another translation he once gave was, my friend, my friend, my friend. Please let me have a relationship with you. Let me chant your name, let me glorify you. And another point from the purport is that when one is, the Lord is Swarat, fully independent, and the servant is also fully independent, or Swarat. So this means that when one is engaged in a proper constitutional position, when one is engaged in service, then one is free, one is independent. The example is often given of the king or the queen. They're servants. You don't just walk in the door and start serving. You have to be trained up. You have to become qualified in the mood of service. But then you're living in the same place. You're enjoying the same privileges. You have the same opulence you have to deal with. You have to become familiar with dealing with those type of items. But you don't have the responsibility. That's the boss. You let the boss, let the master take the responsibility. And he's the one who is orchestrating all the service. And as a result of the good management and the natural position, a servant in connection with the master is also achieving amazing things. And satisfaction is the main part there. We have examples. A reflected glimpse of such service is experienced in the service of the mother unto the son, the friend's service unto the friend, or the wife's service unto the husband. It is said that love is the nature that this service should be executed in, that we don't get examples of that pure love. There's no such thing as pure love. In the material world, all we're seeing is a perverted form of lust. It's I scratch your back, you scratch my back. It's business, it's not love. So these examples, it's said that the mother's love for the child is the closest we can experience to pure love in the material world. The mother will do anything for the child. The child is passing stool all over the place. The mother will gladly clean the child. And so much love that, isn't that beautiful? Look at this. And it's even considered to be like white stool or yellow stool to the mother. It's beautiful. Look, he's passing stool so nicely. I'll clean it up. The darling. So here Prabhupada is expanding a little bit. The friend's service unto the friend. Selfless service. You have a friend, what is the definition of a good friend? What is the definition of a good friend?
Friend in need is a friend indeed.
That's a nice saying. Friend in need is a friend indeed. What did you say? Same thing. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Well, that's interesting. Friend in need is a friend indeed. Indeed, you'll be prepared to do something for somebody who needs something. Okay, that makes sense. I've heard another definition of a friend, a true friend. A friend is somebody who's prepared to die for you. Like my dear godbrother, he became very much dear to his spiritual master because he stepped in front of him when he was being challenged with a rifle butt. He took it on his head, got knocked unconscious, amnesia, didn't experience externally anything that was going on, but he endeared himself to his beloved spiritual master. And the wife's service unto the husband, selfless service. Husband might be nasty, cantankerous. A loving wife serves the husband and pacifies, wins the heart of the husband, and then gets blessed by the husband. Like Devahuti was serving Kadama. She became niggardly, dirty, skinny, but the result of the service to her husband, who was also performing austerities, was that he created a huge airship, palace, could fly in the sky, and they travelled all over the universe for many years, and they were enjoying like anything. She achieved 9 children in that time. And then Kadama Muni said, okay, the sun has come, and once the sun is here, and the sun happened to be the spring person who got it, I'm leaving home. she asked for something more. I want to understand reality. I want to understand Krishna consciousness. So she achieved ultimate everything by that service attitude, by that loving, selfless service to her husband. So these are examples of the results and the mood of that loving service. And the end achievement is Krishna. Ultimate success, ultimate happiness. Swarup, the identity, the original form of the living entity. Service. Service is an amazing concept. There's the service of the mosquito. There's the king sitting on the throne, and the mosquito comes and he's close to the king, but his service is nasty, unfavorable. He's annoying the king. So close proximity is not necessarily the quality of service that we want. We want intimate, loving service. So in order, Mukunda Maharaj, he wrote in his Miracle on Second Avenue, after contemplating some incidents, some lessons he learned from service, it takes a long time to learn to love someone. And it takes even longer to know what pleases them. So first you have to love someone, and then you have to understand what it takes to please them. So that's a type of service that will actually have the greatest result. So we have to start somewhere. Cleaning the bathroom is a start for most people. And then from there, as we become adept in the service, then Krishna will see, the spiritual master will see, the devotees will see that we're taking advantage properly. We're relishing the service. We're becoming qualified as a servant. Let's give some more service. Let's give some more service. The mode of passion, we want to expand. Let me go and try and grab some more myself. Mode of goodness, no, let me just be satisfied with what I have. Do what I have properly. Be grateful for the service. And then Krishna, he will give automatically an expansion of that service. He'll give service which will enable us to become free from the modes of material nature. We'll become more realized, more satisfied. And that service might just be the same, just chanting. Just chanting. Krishna might take away everything, and all we have left is to chant. That service, if we relish it, in Europe, when you go to some of the festivals there, the devotees there are extremely attached to their service. They won't give up their service. No, Prabhu, that's my service. They're very attached to their service. It's a very healthy attitude. I often in the position where I've got some service and I understand I'm not qualified. Actually, it's not service, it's a disturbance, a disservice. In Sydney, Radha Gopinath, we were doing a marathon, intense activity for 28 days, which is purifying. It's very exciting. It's very satisfying. Everybody was on Sankirtan, everybody was doing the marathon, and somehow or other I had to do the service of dressing in the evening times of Radha Gopinath and putting them to bed, putting them to rest. So the intensity of the service, it was more service, it was lovely, but inside I was screaming out, "Oh, it's too much! Why do I have to do this? Why does it have to be so intense?" And Krishna heard my prayers, and I got a realization, so that you learn to serve. It's got to be beaten into you, that you have to learn to be a servant, not trying to be the enjoyer. That's actually the ultimate diagnosis of why we're here in this material world, because we want to enjoy. We have that enjoying and controlling propensity. So that has to be beaten out of us in some circumstances. If we're not intelligent enough to understand our actual constitution, Prabhupada, he describes how to become humble. How to become humble. He says, just understand who you are. when you understand that you're infinitesimal, you're just small and everything is coming about because of the mercy of Krishna, then automatically you become humble. So if you're not intelligent enough to understand that, you still think, if you're under illusion, that you've got something good, you're pretty good, then that has to be beaten out of us sometimes. So it's a wonderful realization. I'm just a servant. In Poland we did a drama based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and one of the characters, one of the devotees was playing Hanuman. I think it was Hanuman. Narada Muni, he travels around, he's looking for the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And he gets directed to one person, another person. Most personalities, most of the devotees, they would deny, I'm not the greatest recipient, go and see this person, they get more service than me. So Hanuman, when it was his time, he was being glorified, and in the drama, he emphasized his lack of qualification. He said, I'm just a servant! I'm just a servant! Hanuman is famous for that being shown when he asked about his relationship with Lord Ram. He took his fingernails and he opened up his chest to show Hanuman there paying his obeisances to Sita and Ram. And again, a servant of the servant of the servant, dasa dasa anudas. I'm just a servant. So whatever it takes, and it begins with just doing some service. Don't be reluctant to do service. Accept service. Oh, Prabhu, I'm sorry, I'm just chanting my rounds. That's an excuse, that's a lame excuse. Accept the service. Service is the mercy. Service is sambandha. Service is our relationship. So if we can accept the service, and then eventually, in due course of time, that service beginning from Vaidhi Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, will become Raganuga Sadhana. It will become spontaneous, we'll relish it. And then on that platform, we'll be able to engage 24 hours a day in service. Srila Prabhupada, he was asked once, what's the definition of a pure devotee? He was walking on the beach. He stopped, he put his cane into the sand, and he said, a pure devotee is one who is engaged 24 hours in service. So service is the crux of everything. So Lord Brahma, he's in the right position, he's asking for mercy, and Krishna's telling him, you'll become free from the influence of the modes of material nature, you realize your pure form, your swarup, in my association. At that time you will be situated in pure consciousness. So it's simple, there's confidential knowledge, more confidential most. I'm a servant, I'm not this body. Please engage me in service. So thank you for the opportunity to serve you all, and by saying something about Srimad Bhagavatam. Is there anybody who has any questions? Please let me know what's going on. Vaishnavi.
Thank you for the class. I have a comment and a question as well. The comment was, in my experience, I've seen, even when I was in Auckland, that when you come along and you're asked to do service, sometimes you are unable to do it because of valid reasons, maybe health or some other commitments, and then like sometimes I experience that you're given the guilt trip, that you don't want to please your spiritual master, you don't want to please Krishna. So we need to be careful of that as well. But of course, what you're saying is right, that we should always take that opportunity when we're given service to do it. And my question is in relation to a friend in need is a friend indeed. And sometimes we find in situations where even though there's a friend, but they are unable to guide or correct that person because they're fearful that the relationship might be affected. I remember a class I was listening to by Sheshika Prabhu, and often he would say that we need to develop this mood of I live to be corrected. So we should be open to be corrected, otherwise then we won't make any progress and we'll be stuck. My question is, how do we develop, I remember also my spiritual master many years ago in Auckland, one sannyasi, he fell down and he was giving a class at a home program, and he didn't mention any names, but one devotee was asking that, what do we do in those situations? And my spiritual master, he said that everyone should have at least one friend that they can confide in confidence. It's not that we publicly tell everyone, I'm struggling with this and that, because it might disturb others as well, but at least one person. So how do we develop that openness and trust? Because also Lord Chaitanya, when he corrected the Dikvijaya Pandit, he was doing it in a private place, because sometimes we find devotees in front of everyone, they're correcting someone, and then it's counterproductive.
Yeah, that's gross. It's just a display of false ego. Ishvara above, lording over people. The crux of the answer, I think, to your question comes in the friend. We need to have friends. Once in the class there was an exercise done. How many friends do you have? How many intimate friends do you have? How many close friends do you have? And people were struggling to get a few. It's a great blessing to have a real friend, somebody you can confide in, somebody who's prepared to die for you, somebody who is you want to open up, you want to share with. So that's the beginning, to make a friend, to get some friends. Prabhupada, he was loved by all, and he says because he loved everybody. So a friend, how to develop that friendship, appreciate others. Amanina mananidina. Do not desire honour for oneself, but to recognise that other people are valuable and they can give so much. So to try and approach them in a humble state of mind. And understand. So often we take for granted the devotees we're in association with. So scratch under the surface a little bit and realise the value of who these persons are. Prabhu, can you tell me your realisation? What's happening? Inquire. And there's formulas for the interactions, the type of interactions we have with others. For somebody who we can understand is needing help, give them mercy. For somebody who's on a similar level, then confide in them, make friends with them, deal with them, understand each other, spend time with each other. And for somebody who's on a higher level, then we should offer service. We should be naturally drawn to serve them like that. Well, it's an art, how to develop friendship, and then in that friendship, then that takes time. You develop confidence, and you trust somebody that your confidence is not going to be betrayed, as you say, in front of everybody. It's all broadcast, or it's on the internet. So it just takes good fortune, takes time, takes practice, takes endeavour. It's a gift. It's an honour to have somebody who has that faith, that trust in you. And my mother used to say, if you're not prepared to put time and energy into maintaining a friendship, don't start. It's a valuable thing. So if you're not prepared to honour it and develop it and maintain it, then don't desecrate it. Don't disregard it. Very rare. Because we have many acquaintances, but how many real friends? One to make a spiritual master of the holy name. Friends. Singapore.
Yeah, thanks. You're making a point about Haribol. Oh, it works. Yeah, you're making a point about chanting and service, and don't use chanting as the excuse for not doing service. There's an interesting comment from Srila Prabhupada. Dhananjaya was asking him how to, choose what you should do in terms of service and sadhana and things like that. Prabhupada explained to him, first most important thing is health, because without health you can't do anything. Then comes sadhana, then service. So the thing is, like, my experience is like, if we don't have good health physically and spiritually, how are you going to do service? You'll drift. So, if it's 7, 8 o'clock at night and I haven't done one round, then I know what I'm going to choose to do if someone asks me to do service. I think it requires maturity also, and not that we're using the chanting as an excuse to avoid service, but also sadhana is service. We've been given instructions by the Guru to follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, etc. Chant our Gayatris every day. That's also part of our service. So I think, we just have to have a bit of maturity how to choose what to do when.
Yeah, spiritual master, there's service. The spiritual master, he gives a prescribed service. That's the best service. Service, the shoes are all over the place. I'm going to clean up all the shoes and put them in a proper order. That could be a disservice sometimes. It's a speculation. You were describing different circumstances where service becomes the third priority. Health, sadhana. So, longevity. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he made a comment. The first principle is self-preservation. If you don't have a body, how can you do service? If your body is not fit, how is the quality of your service going to be acceptable? So self-preservation. So that has to be a major consideration. Shiva Maharaj, he recently made a comment that I'm getting older, I'll need to spend more time maintaining, looking after myself. If you want to get some long-term service out of me, then go easy. Don't push so much on me. Give me my dues. I need some time. So to be able to say that, Shiva Maharaj is an amazing personality. He was with us in Mayapur, and the loudspeakers were blasting. Most people would just say, I wish they would go, they'd turn it off. How inconsiderate they are. He marched out of the place, into the place, walked up there, but it was a wedding or something going on. And they said, Maharaj, thank you for gracing us, please come and stay. He said, turn down your musical instruments. They're all pointing outwards. It's for you. Turn them inside. I'm not doing anything until you turn down. And he sat there and they turned down the music. And then he accepted a donation and some prasadam, and he was satisfied. So it takes some gumption, it takes some guts to be able to speak out. I was listening, I saw a thing. Mostly you get into the attitude of being a yes person. Yes, I'll do anything to please somebody, because you don't want to rock the boat. You need gratification, you need reciprocation. So you do, but then you're denying your personal needs. You're not being authentic. And you get sick. People get cancer from not doing the right thing by themselves. So it's a big topic, how to be mature, how to assess who I am, and that's supposed to come about by engaging in service. So this is the appropriate service. Breathe properly.
Maintaining health and sadhana are also service.
Definitely.
Because if you don't have health, because the prime objective is to serve Krishna, and all these things, health, sadhana, etc., they facilitate that service, so they're also service.
When you talked about health, you said physical and spiritual health. If you're spiritually malnourished, if you're not nourishing the soul with spiritual sound, spiritual food, prasadam, spiritual association, then it will shrivel up. So, yeah. Take prasad. And the prasad, the regulative principles of freedom. Control the mind, control the senses, engage in devotional service. With health. with happiness, with satisfaction. These are the first principles. And ultimately, Shraddha Shabde Vishvasakori Sudridhanishwa, knowing that just by engaging in proper service, by being properly situated, then ultimately we'll achieve all success. Krishna will be pleased. So, big topic, we could go on forever. Thank you very much for your patience, your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.